guess what?
What?
I got my letter from the University of Life. I might have gotten in.
Open it. Open it.
Dear Lamont,
Mm-hmm.
we are pleased to tell you that you are now and forever a student of the University of Life.
Whoa!
I'm Lamont, a true student of the world.
And I'm Leah, eager to learn.
And
And
you're
you're
tuning
tuning
into
into
the
the Lamont
Lamont
and
and
Leah
Leah pod.
podcast.
So, Leah, I'm actually a master's student going to La Sierra University. I am hopefully on my last year. Oh my god.
Fingers crossed.
Oh,
Yay.
great. Don't repeat anything. Um, but Leah, are you no longer in school?
Nope. I graduated with my bachelor's in 2015. And I didn't feel like it was necessary for me to go get my master's. I wanted to go back to school for a little bit, but I just never got around to it for like something completely different than my previous degree.
And you still consider yourself a student?
Oh yes, like don't tell anyone, but I'm like such a nerd. I love learning. Like I'm consistently watching like documentaries and how-tos and like learning videos on YouTube. Like that's what's constantly playing in the background.
Is there any way you see yourself as a teacher within your life?
Professionally, probably not. But I mean, I love to like share everything that I've learned all the time with people. Yeah. So like I probably will never go into the profession, but definitely teach people some stuff if I like.
Today, Leah, my friend Francisco Rodriguez is going to come on.
Mm-hmm.
I've known him for a few years,
Mm-hmm.
and I followed him through his education journey at Cal State San Bernardino. I think we were actually at Cal State San Bernardino at the same time.
Mm.
He graduated, he became a went to his master's classes, and then became a teacher. And he
Nice.
teaches at Cal State San Bernardino, and he loves teaching. Actually, I want to say after our first or second episode, he contacted me and he was
Yeah.
like, "Hey, like, if you ever have um, any of these subjects, like, I'll be interested." So he gave me a list of subjects,
Yeah.
which started
Mm-hmm.
our list of subjects.
Nice.
So yeah. So let's get started. So welcome, Francisco. I'm so glad you
Hello.
can join us today.
Thank you for having me.
No problem at all. So let's. Can you start by introducing yourself and any fun fact that you would like our listeners or viewers to know?
Oh, I like that. So, well, my name is Francisco Rodriguez. Fun fact about me, I don't know if it's fun, but it's like I'm into like zodiac signs and all that stuff. I think it's kind of cool to read about
Ooh.
them.
Mm-hmm.
So I always say it's like an Aquarius thing a lot of the time, you know.
So I'm assuming you're an Aquarius.
Correct.
I Lamont, what are you?
I'm a Virgo, which is an Earth
Yes, you
sign.
are. Yes, you are. Okay.
And then what are you, Leia?
I'm a Pisces.
That's a water sign too, right?
Yes, and I'm very Pisces.
Now Aquarius is water, right? It's not air, it's water.
I think it's air,
Yeah, I
It's
think
air.
yeah, I think Aquarius is air. I think
but
everyone
the sign is a water sign.
yeah, so it's
Oh
funny.
my gosh. Okay, let's go ahead and get into our main topic. Francisco, you are a teacher. You went to Cal State San Bernardino, you got your degree, and now you're teaching there. When did you realize you wanted to be a teacher?
That is a great question. I've gotten that a couple times. So I think it was basically my career at the community college level when I fell in love with communication classes and just taking several communication courses. And then one of my professors, actually, I was like, wow, this dude is really cool. Like he's able to do all this and that. And I just figured like, hey, you know what? Maybe I can do that someday, right? And just kind of launch myself into the world of academia and teach. So from when I graduated at the community college level, I went into communication. But I think it was in undergrad when I was doing my finishing up my bachelor's degree when I said like, hey, you know, maybe I could just stick to this and possibly become a professor, right? And in this field that I really like.
Yeah.
And you
Yeah,
did it.
that's awesome. Yeah, I feel like a lot of people owe their like interest to like a certain teacher. Like even me, like I took a intro to film class and the teacher was so awesome and I've just never looked back. Like and I don't know if she hadn't been so cool if I would have continued because, you know, but yeah, we owe a lot to our teachers.
Yeah. I love to teach. I mean, I think that's what I do in my job. Like I'm a group facilitator, but then I have to follow a curriculum. So like even though like I'm like laying out the curriculum, I'm giving lots of knowledge and stuff. So I'm actually teaching while I'm having group session. So but I would love to like just like teach like Psych 101 or any like psychology of development or anything really. I love to teach.
Yeah, that
Like you
sounds
know, I love to teach. I taught Sabbath school for
Yeah.
so.
What so you teach at a university level
at
or
at
community
the
college
university.
level? Yeah.
Both,
Both.
yeah.
What was your educational journey like?
Yeah, so I mean, I just blanked on the word, but I basically, you know, I'm from the IE, right? So I
Mhm.
grew up in Corona, Riverside area for the most part. So my
So for
hometown college
hold on,
was Norco.
hold on. So for those of you guys who are listening, that is actually not too far from where Leia and I grew up. We're from the
Yeah.
IE. We grew up in Reno Valley, which is not too far. That's part of Riverside County, and Francisco is also a part of the IE, Riverside County, San Bernardino County, all
Yeah.
that.
We're
All
all
right, go
we're
ahead.
all from the same place.
Yeah, go ahead, Francisco.
We're all neighbors.
Yeah.
So I started my journey at Norco College, and then that led me to Cal State San Bernardino, and that's where I finished my bachelor's in communication studies, with an emphasis in organizational.
Hmm.
Um, and then I immediately after that I went into the master's, also at Cal State San Bernardino, master's of communication studies.
Mhm.
However, that wasn't my. I mean, that really wasn't my intention, I guess. Like I finished my bachelor's and well, I wasn't done yet, but I was close to finishing. And I mean, I had the idea of like teaching as a possibility, but it wasn't like 100%. But it was one of my mentor at the time who she kept pushing me, me and another friend of mine, and she kept telling us like, hey, you know, you guys are perfect for this. You should definitely consider graduate school. This is a career. You know, she kind of taught us a little bit about it since she was already experienced, you know, going through that.
Mhm.
And honestly, that's how my whole journey in grad school and beyond, right? Like how all that started to develop and where I gained so much knowledge. Because honestly, if it wasn't for that, I don't think I would be the same person. Like even maturity wise, like
Mhm.
mentally, I don't think I would have grown as fast as I did if it wasn't for that experience.
Yeah.
So I want to say we had the similar journey. Like I went to Riverside Community College, but I did take one or two classes at Norco because back then it was all Riverside Community College. And then I want to say after 2010, that's when I graduated from Riverside Community College. I went to Riverside City College, Norco College, and Moreno Valley College. But before then, it was Riverside Community College, Moreno Valley Campus, Riverside Community College, Norco Campus, Riverside Community College, Riverside Campus. And now they're their actual own colleges.
That's cool.
which is really cool. Because like it was like they did it to get more money for the college to bring in more programs and support.
That's good.
So even though you can still go to all three, but they're technically not the same college anymore. So
Yeah, that is so cool.
yeah. Um, so I graduated from Riverside Community College. I headed to Cali San Bernardino. I actually think we were on campus at the same time, but we never saw each other because I was in psychology, you were in communications, just never ran into each other in
Right. It was,
any
mhm.
events. So, and then I stopped. And you continue your master's, so you finished before me. I'm about to finish my master's, hopefully at the end of this year.
Hey.
Woo! Yeah. So what has been the best part of your teaching experience? Or what has been the worst part? Which one do you want to start first? Your worst part and then your best part? Or other way around? It's totally up to you.
Um, let's see. I guess we could go from worst to
To
best.
best.
Yeah, sure.
I like that.
Right, end with the good news.
Yeah.
Um, I guess let me see. If I think about worse, uh, so I guess like just teaching in general, I think many of us have heard before that grading is like the worst because who wants to sit and grade um work that is like just extremely repetitive and where you're not really gaining much.
Hmm.
So I think grading can definitely, it can become, because the process, it's so, like I said, it's so repetitive. um and a lot of the times the assignments, like, we I don't know how to say it. Like, we don't have the liberty, like, depending on what class you're teaching, we don't have the liberty to be like, oh, well, I want to talk about this, right? Like, we have to follow certain curriculum that meets like the objective for that specific class, right? So then I can't be like, well, talk to me about your past, right? Like, how did that make you a better, like, no, it has to be a little bit more concentrated on the objective. So grading can definitely be kind of kind of iffy. Some grading is pretty fun, but when you're grading like 90 papers or 90
Oh my
speeches,
goodness.
yeah, it's not so fun, especially
Also
if
the college level. Like at least with
uh,
kids work, you're like draw a picture, like yay, you know?
right, right. And also if like, I don't know, 30 of the speeches are all on the same topic or subject,
Gosh.
like, can we like get a little bit more creative and talk about other topics? So
Yeah.
and that tends to happen a lot, where a lot of students just keep going over the same
Oh my
topics, and I'm just
goodness.
like, oh, I've heard this a million times. Like, so then I'll Google some stuff and be like, hey, have you guys considered this? Just throwing that out there if you want to research that.
For sure. I was a TA at La Sierra University, at La Sierra Academy, and I enjoyed the grading. And what I enjoyed was not all the time, but what I enjoyed was like if a student wasn't doing well and then started to do well, like seeing that like progression, like oh they're getting it, they're learning, and that
Mhm.
was always awesome for me.
Hmm.
Absolutely.
So even though grading's stinky, like especially 90 like papers, oh my god, I'm pretty sure like that like when you see certain students that didn't start off so well and they're like getting better in their like delivery, you're like wow, they're growing, they're learning, they're paying attention, they're listening.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. And that's honestly the beauty of teaching, like, if I think anyone in this field, that gratitude that you get from seeing a student succeed, or seeing a student go from a C grade average to a B plus or A, like, you get that satisfaction, right? And I think that's why we go into this field, right? Because we want students to succeed to the maximum potential that we know they have. Because that's what I felt, right? When I was a student, I was like, these people care about me, right? So I'm gonna motivate myself and push myself. So I hope that I transmit that as well
Yeah.
to my students, and I think I do for the most part. But there's always I always like to think that we're like life learners, right? So we're always learning. So I don't ever consider myself like perfect, or like, oh, I've reached my expert maximum level. Like, I always think we're constantly learning.
Yeah.
is there a concept that like allows you to like think so like I'm the teacher, but I'm also the student. So like even though like I'm the teacher and I teach students, the students teach me, and so therefore they're my teachers. Like is there like a concept like that like entangles all of those ideologies or
I don't know if there I don't know if there's like an official word for it, but I mean, it sounds like there would be. I'm just not sure if it like what it is. But I have heard that often from several people, even anywhere, whether it's like K through 12 or college. Um, they always say like, yeah, like I'm the teacher or the professor, but I also learn from my students, right? And I think that's the beauty of, or that's the exchange, right? That we're looking for. You want to have that, because if it's one way, it's like, like how am I making myself better, right, if I'm not receiving feedback from
Mm-hmm.
from all these other personalities in the room.
cool cool. So what has been the best experience so far?
Oh, the best experience, I think, let me see, I guess just really throughout this whole crazy journey of like grad school and teaching and all that together, I've gotten so many opportunities. I think like I've traveled across the US for different research conferences where I got to present my research. Or sometimes I would just travel just to go to a conference, even if I didn't present, right? But just to have that opportunity to fly somewhere and meet other people from other states that that focus on whatever they like, that because these are people that dedicate years to research, and so just being able to be a part of that and listen to their stories, like I think it's something that I definitely like never took for granted, and I loved it. I mean, I didn't travel much anyway, so I was like, whenever I got the chance to
Yeah.
travel for these conferences, I was like, sign me up, right? Like I'll go, I'm on it. So I got to go to Chicago, Albuquerque, Portland, all these different places. And that's one of the things that I really miss actually from when COVID happened.
Yeah.
Traveling stopped for me, and I got into other conferences, but everything kind of turned virtual.
Yeah.
Um,
Speaking about COVID, I think Leia has a question for you.
Yeah. Like I'm not in school, so I don't really get too much like firsthand experience, but like what has been the difference switching to like virtual learning? Because I think most places are still virtual. There's a few places that are starting to do in person again, but I mean, I don't know anything about it. Like how has that been from a teacher's point of view?
oh, let me tell you. Oh my God, I don't know. I guess like, and I feel like I complain about this, but
Mm-hmm.
at the same time, I'm grateful. Like I'm grateful to have this job, right, and to be able to work from home,
Mm-hmm.
because I know a lot of families or a lot of people don't or didn't get that opportunity because of COVID.
Yeah.
So I'm definitely grateful, but my goodness, like the workload is just 10 times as much as it was in person. Like I think I'm even getting more wrinkles.
No, no.
Oh no, no, you look
Uh,
good. You look good.
yeah, I mean the workload is just insane. I mean everything is virtual. Like I record lectures once a week,
Mm-hmm.
but that's because I decided to teach asynchronous, right? So it just means that everything is pre-recorded.
Yeah.
So I don't actually meet with my classes face to face every week. Um, and that was my choice. We get the option to do synchronous or asynchronous.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but I mean, everything is Canvas or Blackboard. Everything is grading, typing. Um, just I don't know. Like there's no connection. There's no real
Yeah.
connection with my students. I don't think I really know them.
Yeah.
And I think that's really the main thing that is like the biggest hit for me, right? Especially being a communication instructor, and being used to teaching public speaking and intercultural classes. Like
Yeah.
these are classes that require a lot of like in-person dialogue, and I feed from my students too. Like I don't know if you see me in class, I'm a completely like different person. I joke with them all the time. I pick on the ones that like to joke back with me. We have this exchange of like I can ask them questions and they'll reply. So it's completely different.
Yeah.
But the workload, I think, was probably the biggest change because I do feel like I'm stuck at home doing laptop work here um, than in person, which I think everything was just a lot easier, grading and
Hmm.
talking to students and stuff like that.
Yeah, I can't imagine that. Like, I think I've taken a few online courses before and I hated them because
Same.
like, even though I'm more introverted, I do just like that, face to face, like communication, especially when I'm learning stuff. Um, I mean, yeah, I've taken some communication courses because I'm a film major, so I had to take them to learn about that kind of stuff. And yeah, I couldn't imagine trying to do that online. Oh my goodness. Ah.
That's
So I hated online courses too. I realized I did not get the best grades
Mhm.
when I tried to use them. But however, I always wanted a a way to like maybe be at home but like in class online. And COVID made that happen. In fact, I was not in my master's program. I was delaying it. And as soon as COVID came, I was like, this is the perfect time to go back to school because it's going to be online, but not online in the sense of like, I have to go online, I have to read the assignment and just turn it in. My teachers and my classes are all going to be online. Everyone's going to be using Zoom. It's like the
Mhm.
perfect time. So, Francisco, I'm that like you haven't really enjoyed teaching because you're not connecting with your students. I see my professors every week and they see me and we're talking in class and we're still getting that like exchange.
Mhm.
So,
Yeah.
yeah, and I think and so that's the thing. Like I don't think it's not like a universal fit for everyone, right? And I think we know that like obviously by now some students love online learning but other students just cannot connect to online. And I think the biggest thing for like, so the biggest motivator for me to teach asynchronous was mainly because I didn't want to be one of those people that was like, oh, you have to be on your computer at 3 p.m. every Tuesday. You know, turn your mic on, turn your camera on. You can't have family in the background. You can't, you know what I mean? Like I didn't want to be that person. And considering the times that we were in, I know a lot of students had to go back to their families and there was just a lot of people, a lot of noise.
Yeah.
So I definitely didn't want to do the whole like, yeah, you have to do this or that. So that's why I decided to just do asynchronous. And I know it's a lesser connection with the students, but overall I felt like it was going to benefit them more. And then
Yeah.
also I guess myself because I guess my schedule is a lot more flexible that way as well. But that was my main reason.
Mm.
But in the fall we are going back to in person, so I'm super
Yay.
excited for that.
Yeah.
are you still doing like summer school or are you taking the time off?
I actually have one class for summer, so
Would
uh,
you would you consider like maybe like having an in-person class for the students that want to show up, not an in-person but like online class, everyone show up online and then record those sessions, and then for the students that couldn't make it, like they watch it or are not comfortable or whatever, would that
yeah, I
be
think
enjoyable for you?
yeah, absolutely. I think that's something I've been considering a lot more now. Now that I have like a year teaching online asynchronous.
Mm-hmm.
And I've heard from several different friends and colleagues like, oh, you should try it this way and this way. So I think I definitely could give it a try.
Yeah. Is there any concern for like people's like retention or like grades because of online? Because I know my little brother is really struggling with his grades, and we're pretty sure he's gonna have to repeat. But that's like on an elementary side. So I'm wondering in like higher education, are they kind of like seeing the same thing?
I wondered the same thing because I'm not entirely sure like how many or what the rates have, how much they've changed from
Mm-hmm.
in person to online. What I do know is that some students or some schools were giving the option to do like a pass or no pass rather than like a letter grade.
Yeah.
So that was something different that I didn't know would happen, but that actually kept going from semester to semester. So, I mean, I'm hoping that helps more because some students have the option to either choose a letter grade or the pass or no pass for as their final grade. So
Yeah.
yeah, but I really hope, you know, students are not, I guess, like uh feeling unmotivated because of online, you know.
Yeah. I feel like in the higher education, people usually have a little more like motivation and drive to do something, or the skills to like, okay, well, I gotta get it done, so let me do it. And I, you know, on the elementary side, I don't know. Like, my brother's pretty young, so he's just like, I don't like this. I don't want to do this. So, more than likely, he's gonna be repeating. And yeah, I guess we'll see once everything starts going back into person, like how much everyone has to redo.
Right, yeah.
I don't know for the younger kids.
Yeah.
I'm trying to think like pass, no pass. Like if I had like a whole year of that, like what would my GPA be? Like does that even matter now or factor into
Yeah.
anything?
Hmm. Interesting.
Just wondering.
Yeah.
Leia, do you have another question?
um yeah. Well, so I've never been a teacher. So I'm coming straight from like the student half of everything. And I guess it was really surprising to me when I went to college to find out that like my friends that were in education, like going for an education degree, and even like seeing my teachers off campus, that teachers are normal people. And that just like astounds me. Like I still can't wrap my head around it. So I was just like, do you have anything to say about that? Like, not like in a
Yeah.
negative light. It's just so weird to like from a student viewpoint to like realize that.
Yeah, I think
Yeah.
because
Uh-huh.
um, the teacher holds so much power,
Yeah.
right? They hold the power of our grades, like if we pass or not. So we're thinking like, please the teacher, holy teacher, almost. But yeah, no. What are your thoughts on that, man?
Yeah, no, I agree with both of you. I think like I think even myself when if I see like a past teacher of mine, I still very much get into like that student mode, like like you've never seen me like this, right?
Yeah.
Like it's a little strange. Um yeah, I kind of feel like I fall back into like student mode, if whatever that means, right?
Yeah.
Um, so I guess I never thought of it that way when because like when I would see students walking around campus at Cal State San Bernardino, I would always want to be like, hey, hi, like you know, like in your face, like, hey, like you remember me from like two semesters ago. But I never realized like maybe for them it could be like awkward or like they don't want to
Yeah.
say hi to me because they're like, you know, oh, that's my instructor from
Yeah.
a semester ago. Like
And he gave me a C.
right, especially if they're gonna hold that against me.
No, like I remember, I think I took a communication class. I did. And I think he allowed us to call him by name. And so, I said his name like one day he was fasting. I was like right after I was like, "You gave me a B." He was like, "You mean you earned a B?" I was like, "No, like you gave me a B." Like, no, you earned your B. I was like, whatever. But yeah, like you like the work that you put in, you earn. I honestly thought I earned an A though. I put in a lot of hard work in this class, so
I'm sure you did. That's such a teacher response to say you earned your. I always fall back to that. Um,
Yeah, like
I
out here we have something called Pauhana, which is kind of like your it's 5 o'clock somewhere sort of situation after work. You go
mm,
get like a drink at the bar. And it was so weird to me that sometimes the teachers would invite us. Like, hey, we're going Pauhana at the bar down the street. You guys can come.
that sounds like a lawsuit waiting to happen.
I mean, for the most part, we were all of age, or the bar that they were going to didn't have like an age, whatever. As long as you were an adult, you just couldn't drink, you know. So, I mean, I never went to them because I was always very uncomfortable. But like, that's just student mode, right?
Yeah,
yeah,
so actually, that brings up a really good question. Like, when's appropriate times to hang out with your students, and maybe not some appropriate times to hang out with your students?
I love that question because I guess like for me, I'm one of those professors that's like you can call me by my first name. Like I'm totally cool with that. I prefer them call me by my first name. I guess like in my head it keeps me young too. So I'm like, call me by
Yeah.
my first name. I don't want to feel too old. Um, but I guess like I've always said that after I've had someone in my class and after the semester ended and you got your final grade and whatever, like then we can be more like, hey, you want to add me on Instagram or
Yeah.
like you want to be like closer friends? Like sure, I don't mind. I think the only issue comes when it's like when you're still in the class, right?
Mhm.
Because then there could be conflict of interest,
Yeah.
or they can, or you don't know what can happen, and sometimes it can be like, oh well, they told me this or he told me that, but I got this grade, right? Or it always falls back to like the grades. So from like an educator point of view, we do want to kind of like keep an eye on that.
Hmm.
But I also think like we have a pretty good what is it, like you can read your students, and sometimes like when a student is like really cool and that they wouldn't do anything negative like that, and other times with students that you don't know too well, you kind of just want to like keep it professional, keep it friendly. But I'm all about like, and maybe I get this from like my mentor, but she's very non-traditional in
Hmm.
that sense. Like my mentor, she would take me out to dinner. She would like, we would go to the bars together, and I was still a student, a graduate student.
Hmm.
um, and we just had that relationship because she was all about like breaking the norm and breaking what we call professionalism in the US, which
Yeah.
kind of also derives from colonialism, if you kind
Yeah.
of look at the history. So she was all against that, right? And so I think as a graduate student, I kind of took a little bit of that and also told myself like I also want to be a little bit more free in that sense.
Hmm.
Um, I mean, I feel like I'm already non-traditional. Like
Yeah.
I mean, I have tattoos on my arm, on this arm. Like I'm gay, I'm a Latino, so it's like if I'm already doing all this, why not keep going, right? Because I think students would appreciate to see that, because I know when I was a student, I appreciated when I saw people that weren't always the same, right? A replica of each other.
Yeah. And just the pressure that like professionalism puts on stuff too. It's like, ah.
Yeah.
Like I know, so I'm trying to become a therapist, and so it's always like protect your license, ethics, ethics, protect your license, know the laws, ethics, keep yourself out of those situations. Like so, it's always like kind of drilled into us, like because like you don't want to work so hard and pay so much money for like something to like happen and then you lose your license. That would be like
Yeah.
the worst thing ever, right? So I don't know. Like I've always just had teachers that are kind of just like we'll hang out with you in class, but that's it. Like
Yeah.
we're not gonna hang out outside. Like no, like
Because they're not woke yet.
woke teachers hang out with their students and still have good boundaries.
Yep,
Yep.
gotta have the boundaries. I think that's the key right there. Awesome.
I guess my last question is, as a teacher, what is something that you have seen in your students that concerns you?
That concerns me. Let's see. I'm not sure if it would be like a concern. I think I don't know. I guess it would be maybe like I feel like a lot of students go into education because I don't know, some of them feel pressured by family. Others feel like it's just like the thing to do because like what do you do after high school, right? You either go to college or you work.
Yeah.
Um, which there's nothing wrong with it. I think like college itself, you're not only learning about subjects and material and whatever, like knowledge, right? But you're also learning about yourself. So I think like that's actually the beauty also of college, that you get to learn about yourself, like what you like, right? Who you go out to parties with, who you date, who you, right? So it's not always school, but I think it's the school experience that kind of teaches you about like your own journey, right? So um I just, maybe I don't know, I've noticed that some students can just be um like they just don't know their path yet, right? And I always tell them like, that's absolutely okay. You don't have to you don't just walk into college knowing your path. If you do, like, that's awesome, props to you. But if you don't, like, that's what you're here for. You know, you're here to discover your talents and or enhance whatever talents you already have, right? So um yeah, I think that's what it would be. um and also I don't know, I guess like my journey, I mean, in general, like I've had really, really great moments teaching. One of them was a student, one of my students came out in class
Hmm.
in one of his speeches, which I thought was like incredible, right? Because it made me feel nice inside, because I felt like I must be doing something right if they feel comfortable enough to come out in my class.
Yeah.
And I do like to mention that like my class is a safe space, right? So I wouldn't tolerate anything negative against any group of people. Um, I had a student once who was high functioning had high functioning autism, I believe is what they called it.
Hmm.
Um, and even like, right. So you see how like I'm also learning, right, about these students and how they manage to basically deal in classes. And even from that student, I remember him, we had a really nice relationship, and I actually didn't know he was autistic until
Hmm.
almost like three-fourths in of the semester. So like we
Yeah.
were almost done, and then I got like a random email from the disabilities department, and I'm just like, seriously, like now you tell me, like I felt like I could have been doing more.
Yeah.
um but you know, and then I spoke to him, and you know, everything turned out nice and great. But I think that's like the interesting part of this job, right? That you can, that you're learning from all these different types of students and their way of being. um so yeah, so I don't know, there's like challenges and there's pros and cons, I guess, like every profession. One of them bought me a coffee for my birthday, so
Aww.
freebies as well.
Yeah.
But then
So,
there's some
so
that will also like, there was a student who was like kind of challenging me, I guess, or something. Sometimes we get that, like if we look young.
Hmm.
So that's also like another thing, right? So like I said, there's always all these pros and cons.
Yeah.
yeah. So there's no like policy on like don't take a gift from a student.
Not that I've heard. I mean, maybe like well, I guess because that was like, it happened to fall on my birthday. But I guess like if there was a student who was continuously giving me gifts, I would definitely feel like, okay, what's up, right? Like what's going on? Why are you doing
Yeah.
this?
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, I wouldn't a little suspicious.
Yeah. Boundaries.
That's just like, whoa. Um, I really love that your student, like one of your students, were able to come out in a speech that they wrote. That's very magical and different. I guess as a teacher, I would be worried about the homophobia or the racism that my students experience, or the internalized homophobia or internalized racism that some of them might experience. Can you speak on that?
I myself make it very clear that my class, you know, we won't tolerate any of that stuff. Once you step out of the class, I feel like our roles might be a little bit more limiting. You know, like we still have some type of authority in, you know, in the halls and whatever, in my office. But at least in my class, I'm like, I know these things will not happen. And if they do, then we're gonna have an open discussion about it. Right. Because I also don't like to brush things under the rug, right? If someone says something that I didn't like, or something about another student, I definitely address it to the class.
Yeah. I think that would probably be my concern as a teacher is I don't do very good with conflict and I don't know what I would do if someone like said something, you know, indecent, I guess is a word for it. I don't know what I do.
I had a student once who he gave a speech about like immigration,
Hmm.
and he kept referring to immigrants as, what did he call them? Some like illegal aliens or something like that. Illegal aliens is what
Yeah.
he kept saying this term over and over. Um, Obviously, right, I know that the speech is on immigration, so he was talking about all these different points of views. um, talking about border patrol and all these things. And it's cool, right? You have your opinion as a student, you're building your own thoughts, you're doing your research, which is awesome, right? Because that's what I like to see as an instructor. However, when he kept saying illegal aliens, I felt like it was rubbing me the wrong way because I don't like to refer to any immigrant as an alien. So, illegal, sure, by like documental terms, like sure, illegal. Although I don't think anyone is illegal, to be honest. But, um, you know, as an instructor, like sometimes we have to keep our own biases, right, to ourselves. But in this case, I was like, I don't know. I don't want to let this slide. I think this is an opportunity to make it like a learning lesson. Um, and so I didn't tell him anything directly at the time that he did the speech because he did present it in front of the class. However, when I gave him the feedback, it was like a written feedback with like the scores and all that. I did mention it in there, like, hey, you know, I've noticed you're using this term a lot. That's great. But there is other terms that we can replace it for. And I told him this is the reason why I think this word can be offensive to people, especially because, you know, immigrants are everywhere. And I think we should be conscious about, you know, what type of words we're using. And as a society that's trying to be more inclusive, like you don't want to be causing more separation, right? And more like you don't want to be offending people. So I did mention it in there. And then also like the next class, I use that as an example. And I just said like, hey guys, you know, to the whole class, like we were talking about words and stuff like that. And I said, you know, if there's a word that you think that you could use in a better sense or you can replace, and then I brought up illegal aliens, and I told them like, you know, you can say immigrants or you can say whatever, right? So you always want to give the alternative too, right? You don't want to just be like, hey, this is wrong, don't do it again. So I gave them the alternatives and I said like, you know, this is what you could do. But I wouldn't call out the student like by himself, right? Because we also don't want to shun them for you know, just having their own thoughts. But yeah, that's something that I've noticed, and I think it's important to like bring these things up. And the same thing Lamont would go for if someone was to say something homophobic or sexist, right? Like I think these are opportunities for me to step in and be like, hey, you know, this is why we shouldn't say this. Because I feel like the ones that brush it under the rug they're just like, oh my gosh, I heard this and I don't know what to say, so let's just skip it and move on, right? But like, what is being done about it?
Yeah.
So you call those like teachable moments?
Mm-hmm.
Very cool, very cool. One of my favorite teachable moments came from a scene in Freedom Riders. Actually, let's go ahead and check that out really quick.
Watch more videos, Lamont.
More videos. You know me. You know me and my videos.
You and your videos, me and my TikToks. Like
Have page 4. That's turn on. Okay, why don't you just use the next blank page? What's going on? What is that? Give it to me. What is this?
Just leave it alone.
You think this is funny? Tito, would this be funny if it were a picture of you?
It ain't.
Close the workbooks. Maybe we should talk about art. Tito's got real talent, don't you think? You know something? I saw a picture just like this once in a museum. Only it wasn't a black man. It was a Jewish man. And instead of the big lips, he had a really big nose, like a rat's nose. But he wasn't just one particular Jewish man. This was a drawing of all Jews. And these drawings were put in the newspapers. by the most famous gang in history.
That's us, dog.
You think you know all about gangs? You're amateurs. This gang would put you all to shame. And they started out poor and angry, and everybody looked down on them until one man decided to give them some pride, an identity, and somebody to blame. Take over neighborhoods? That's nothing compared to them. They took over countries. And you want to know how? They just wiped out everybody else. Yeah, they wiped out everybody they didn't like and everybody they blamed for their life being hard. And one of the ways they did it was by doing this. See, they'd print pictures like this in the newspapers. Jewish people with big, long noses. Blacks with big, fat lips. They'd also publish scientific evidence that proved Jews and blacks were the lowest form of human species. Jews and blacks were more like animals. And because they were just like animals, it didn't really matter whether they lived or died. In fact, life would be a whole lot better if they were all dead. That's how a Holocaust happens.
Great movie, Freedom Riders, if you haven't seen it. I definitely recommend it, but that's what we call a teachable moment, right? So what had happened before was one of the kids had drawn a picture of the kid with big lips, like one of the students with big lips, and they were making fun of him just because he had big lips. And she turned into a bigger, huger lesson and relayed it back to them because these kids struggled with gang life. And so she had an incredible teaching moment where, like, this is not okay, we're not going to tolerate this, and this is why. So I feel like being a teacher is a big responsibility.
Definitely. I think when Lamont, when you were talking about, or when you guys mentioned, like, because I know you brought up like institutionalized or internalized also, right? So whenever we have anything internalized, whether it's homophobia or racism, but then also like even a bigger umbrella, right, which would be institutionalized racism, right, which happens at the institution level, right, higher education, universities, colleges, even corporate America, right, businesses, big $1 million businesses.
Yeah.
You know, it's so, I don't even know the word, but it's so like incredibly eye-opening. If you, at least like my journey, right, I can speak for myself, like going from undergrad to graduate school really opened my eyes to really see like the universities in a different way, right? I think in undergrad I was just so focused on like finishing and getting out of there, right? Like everyone else, you just want to go to class, go home, get your degree. But graduate school, it was like, it really makes you see like who's in power, right? And why are these people in power, right? Why is it only white people at the top? And why are all the people of color that they say they keep hiring, which they do, right? But then why are they all the adjuncts, or, you know, the part-time faculty, or the ones not invited to committees, right?
Yeah.
And so graduate school for me really took that into like another level. And it really made me see things, I guess, from that perspective, because I still didn't understand like why are people treated differently, right? Even myself, like I'm Latino, right? And I talk fluent Spanish. But I also acknowledge that I'm also very white passing, right? What the term that I call white passing.
Mm-hmm.
And this is something that I wrote my thesis on. And it wasn't until graduate school where I realized, like, one of my best friends, he's more petite, he's shorter than me, he's darker, he has more like Mexican indigenous features.
Yeah.
And we're best friends, right? But I never understood why he was treated differently than I was. And I guess I needed that as well, just as a wake up call, and also because I guess it helped me with my research. And it helped me dive into like the racism that actually exists in the US, from everywhere, right? And especially like even at a deeper level, I was talking about like colorism, right? Which happens in almost every community, right? So I don't know, I guess just like the whole college experience, right? That whole journey made me realize there is a ton of racist, unfortunately, a ton of racist professors.
Yeah.
And people in higher education, administrators that, I mean, just because someone doesn't call you a wetback or the N-word, right? It doesn't mean like, right? So just because it isn't explicit racism doesn't mean they are not racist.
Yeah.
And I think that's one of the biggest things that people didn't understand. And I told them, it's not just about that. Like someone not inviting you to a hiring committee can be seen that way. Someone excluding you from a Zoom call is also seen that way. So what they're doing is microaggressions of racism, right? So they purposely don't invite the people of color. They purposely don't invite the gay faculty. They purposely like do these microaggressions where they don't want to include us, but then they cover it up by saying, well, no, we hired a black professor, so we're good.
Yeah.
But then like if you don't invite him anywhere, if you don't tell him about everything going on, you're basically excluding his vote and his voice. And and I guess I didn't notice that until I went through this journey of grad school, and I became an adjunct, and I became part of that whole faculty life. It's a lot to take in.
It is. Actually, I think we could take a break.
Yeah.
What do you think, Leah?
Let's take a little break, and then we'll come back. Okay, so today, since we're talking about teachers, I thought it'd be fun to watch some TikToks. Go figure. Because apparently there are a lot of teachers and faculty on TikTok, and I didn't know that there was a whole teacher talk side of it.
Anyone who thinks mental breakdowns aren't productive, let me tell you a story real quick. I'm on my way to a job interview. All I needed was to print my resume. I go to my school, which I'm currently taking a semester off, but I go to my school to print the resume and the school won't let me in. So I immediately start having a mental breakdown. I go and sit on a bench outside of the school and I'm screaming, crying, hyperventilating on the phone to my mom because I need this job. And the lady in the window that was right behind me heard me, opens the window, says, "I'm the head of student development at the school. You picked the right window to cry under. Email me your resume and I'll print it for you." And not only did she print me 2 copies of it, but she also spent a half an hour editing and revising it for me. Some people are good.
That's awesome.
Oh my God, wow.
I love that one because it's just like, teachers never stop being teachers, But like, even like, I know we were talking about earlier, like seeing teachers outside of school, like even though they're normal people, they never stop.
I'm gonna be rating the ways that students cheat, part 2.
This is when you write on your hand. I give this a 1 out of 10 because all the evidence is there if you get caught. Students think they're sneaky by hiding the answers in a water bottle. You're really not. I give it about a 2 out of 10 because there's still a lot of evidence. This is when you look at the test that was graded right in front of you. I give it 1 out of 10 because we notice if you stand up and sit back down. This is when you use hand signals. 0 out of 10. You look real goofy whenever you try doing this, and it's super easy to tell.
Right. Oh, lesson overall, don't cheat. I was expecting him to do like something a little harder. They were all like 0s and 1s. I was like, so what's like a good way to cheat? I was just curious.
Like, so I can watch out. You fell, and you fell. You all fell. No, I'm just
Right.
kidding.
I think the comments on that one were like, there were no high grades because they haven't been caught yet.
Too many students are passing. Damn it, these nursing students are adapting too fast. We gotta make nursing school harder for them. Fast suggestions. Okay, I got an idea. Look, I've already picked out 5 nursing students to hate for no reason. This man's evil. Tell them they're not even worthy to be a nurse. I like it, but make it 10 students. Any other ideas? I like that idea too, but I think we're thinking too small. What do you have in mind? I think we should coordinate our exams on the same week. This will prevent students from having enough time to study for the exams. Like, yeah, fuck them students. F's for everybody. Ooh, I like that. You like it, right? Better yet, let's put nothing on the PowerPoints and tell them to read the book. The book? Man, y'all crazy. How about we actually try Helping the students listen. What did he say? Who invited this man?
Oh my god, that's horrible.
She doesn't even go here.
That one was a shout out for my fellow students because it do feel like that sometimes.
It does feel like that sometimes, but that's why I was cracking up and laughing. But I was like, oh my gosh, I'm pretty sure teachers don't do that. I really hope they don't do that.
Or do they?
Let's hope not. But it do feel like that sometimes.
Francisco, thank you so much for coming on and speaking with Leah and I today about your teaching experience, about being even willing, one of the first people being willing to even like come on the Lamont N Leah podcast. So thank you so much. And if someone wanted to get in touch with you or hold of you, what is the best way they could do that?
Email is always the best because we're always on your email. Other than that, I guess like social media.
All right.
I'm always open to that.
Cool. And we'll have his email linked in the description below. And then do you have anything exciting coming up for you? Are you working on anything that you would like to share?
So many projects coming up. But I think just the best or one of the coolest ones that I've ever done. Cal State San Bernardino is having their first TED Talk series, I guess, or event, and I'm one of the main organizers behind that.
Ooh, nice.
Yeah, and it's super exciting. So that's actually coming in on June 7th. Unfortunately, because of COVID, everything had to be pre-recorded, but it will be like a live session on YouTube that they'll be like launching that day. And I think it's just going to be incredible. There's about 14 speakers already lined up from all sorts of backgrounds and ages and everything. So I'm just super thrilled to be a part of that.
Is it only for people who attend the school or can anyone tune in?
No. It's open to absolutely everyone. Yeah,
Okay.
It's a free event open to community, college students, non-college students, anyone.
Sweet.
Do you have the details?
The details.
We'll try and link it. If we can grab the link, it'll be in the description. So if you guys are interested, you can go ahead and check our description. And
This will be for June 7th, right?
Correct. Yes.
yeah,
Cool.
so
All
this
right.
episode should be up by then. So if it is, check out that link.
Yeah, I think so. And then, finally, what lesson or what thoughts might you have just in general for our listener and viewers?
I would say like, don't be afraid of just going out there, reaching out to people. I think one of the biggest lessons I've learned, not only as an educator, but also as a person who, continuously tries to reflect and learn from my past trauma, because I always have this theory that like we all have some type of trauma, right? Obviously they're unique to our own experiences, but I think, I'm 28 years old now, but I guess as I've grown throughout my years, I've learned to practice the art of like gratitude and forgiveness. And I think those are two of the biggest things that I've done that have changed my life completely. And also because of that, I'm also able to just kind of like the TED Talk project that I'm in, I only did it because I saw that there was a need for it and no one else had done it. So I went for it. And a lot of the things that I do, or if you've seen any of my work, I do a lot of community-based work, virtual events, workshops, literally anything and everything that I get my hands on. A lot of the reasons why I do that is because I just go and ask people and like, hey, do you need this? Or hey, do you need that? Or can I help with this? And so I guess throughout my journey, I've learned to do that, right? And don't be afraid, to get a no or to get rejected, perhaps, right? Like there's always opportunities out there. And if there isn't, you can create your own. And that's one of the biggest things.
All right. Thank you.
Yes, thank you very much. And thank you everyone for listening or watching.
See you guys next week. life lesson is about people being our teachers. Everyone has the potential to be a teacher. Some people we seek to learn from. Some people we subconsciously attract, and we learn from them. Many of us are learning simply by observing others. Sometimes we are completely unaware that people are learning from us. So we then become the teachers. To teach is to touch a life forever. And we have the ability to all touch each other. And that is today's life lesson.